Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Lead with Storytelling, the podcast where we explore why stories matter and how they shape the way we lead, create, and live. One of the ideas that has stayed with me over the years is that creativity isn't reserved for artists. It's whether we're building organizations, raising families, designing experiences, writing books, or serving our communities, we're all creating something. The question is not whether we create, but what guides that creativity. Today's guest has spent his career exploring that question through design, leadership, ministry, and culture. I'm delighted to welcome Nathan Nicholson. Nathan is an artist, award winning graphic designer, consultant, creative director, founder of Numa Art LLC, and host of the Culture Critic podcast. He also serves as an ordained elder in the Church of God in Christ and was recognized with the 2024 COG 40 Under 40 Achievers Award. His latest book, In the Beginning We Create, invites readers to think more deeply about creativity, not simply as a skill of or profession, but as something woven into who we are and how we engage the world. Nathan, it's an honor to welcome you to Lead with Storytelling. Thanks for joining me.
All right, Sochi, thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Oh, great. We were just talking now about, or we've had a conversation recently about how you are balancing, or rather, the immense appreciation I have for the work you've undertaken and also tackled so well in your book. In the beginning, we create where it meets the need for someone like me who looks for ways or looks for insights and germs and some knowledge or some science perhaps for balancing the way we live, the way we lead, in the public life and in private, and trying to find a way to kind of make everything coherent in more of a unified lifestyle. And I want to say on behalf of everyone who has read this book and everyone who is going to, thank you so much for sharing this.
Thank you for reading it and appreciating the insights that I have. It's huge when I'm able to see people who connect with the ideas and value them. So thank you.
So, what inspired you to write this?
This was not the first idea that I had. My first book was born out of the death of my father, and so he passed in 2024. I'm sorry, 2014. And shortly after he passed, I felt the unction to honor him in a book, in the lessons that he taught me, and couple that with Christian precepts as well. And I got 20,000 words into the book, and somebody kicked down my mother's door and stole the laptop that I was working on. And this, for me, this predated the cloud. This predated, having my work backed up. And so it was back to the drawing board for that. So as time went on, I began to flesh it out again. Got to about 14, 15,000 words. And I met someone from InterVarsity Press. Unbeknownst to me, I was headed to African American Ministers Association conference. And to make a long story short, they said, "Are you a writer?" I said, "Yes, I am." And so 3 years later, I submitted that idea. The publisher said, "No, we don't think this would be a great first work for you." And so I went back to the drawing board. I submitted another idea. They said, "No, that one was Moses and me." So parallel me in the life of Moses. And they said, "No, we don't think that's the right idea." So I came a third time and gave them another idea. Then they said, "But you know what? We saw your art and we love what you do. We would love to hear the story about that and how that came to be and your interest in that, because it's breathtaking to us." And so I pitched them the idea of a book. They said that didn't work. And then the last time I came back and they said, that's it. So in the beginning, we create reflections on creativity, collaboration, creativity, and rest. And so initially it was supposed to be just a book of quotes with my art. But then it really had a snowball effect and transformed into something else. So that's the long answer.
This would be my first time of interviewing. Well, almost everyone I've interviewed, has been a writer or is a writer. But this would be the first time I would be interviewing someone who doubles as well as a creative designer or graphic designer, and I don't think many enough talk about the courage it takes. And this again doesn't really apply exclusively to creative designers, but even in the writing pursuits or authorship, I mean, we often take for granted the resilience it takes, the courage it takes to actually walk this path, this creative path, whether and also see it as a vocation that should be pursued, in that with that mindset. And having said that, I remember in your acknowledgements how you credit your mother for being, as you put it, your creative brain, the person who modeled, who was a model to you. And that's kind of struck a chord, with me because it got me curious what's the story behind her modeling. The modeling is not just um, to shape your creativity, but also your courage, your Christ-like resilience, and commitment and diligence to the craft. Can you speak a little bit to your relationship with your mother and in the ways in which she has really guided and shaped you?
Definitely. Well, for one, my mother's name is Nathan with an A at the end, so we share that. I'm the third, well, the fourth child, but the third of three boys, and her. We grew up with her and my father with two personalities in the house. My dad did not go to church, but he did contribute to the church by raising us and helping us. He didn't stop my mother going to church. And so I grew up with a nice balance in my home, with someone in the church and someone outside of the church. But her consistency, for one, is great. Just you can set your clock to it every night, 9 o'clock. She's going to pray. It doesn't care, if we have company, if we have house guests, that's her time. That's her intimacy with the Lord. And so there's that. But when it comes to her creative mind, so she went to Chicago Vocational High School, class of 1980, and she there every child had a trade, and so hers was tailoring, was seamstress. She was a seamstress, and so from that, she was a star seamstress. She would always have designs around the house. She would always have molds around the house. And
Yeah,
this, I
yeah.
remember this old dress form that she had.
Okay.
And not only that, my love for movies comes out of her interest for movies. Like, she was the queen of the dollar show. And so when movies were $1 in Norfolk, Indiana, she would go and see it 3 or 4 times, if she liked something like Independence Day or Jurassic Park, things of that nature.
Yeah.
But she would take her, she had this huge portfolio that she would take on the train downtown Chicago when she was a young woman before she got married. And it's just in her. It's just creativity is in her. And my hope is to, once I really break into what I want to break into, to bring her along and to show her that her voice is still valuable and still needed in the creative space. Um, so she means a great deal to me. A praying woman, a preaching woman. She's what we call a district missionary in the Church of God in Christ. So she's over women in a district, and such a really a giant in the body of Christ.
Awesome. Shout out to the mothers. My mom too. I think she kind of told the same path as your mom.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, she was my first teacher. I was homeschooled for the first few years as a kid. Before I was sent off to elementary, she taught me to read. She was a teacher herself. She had training, but she was also a seamstress, just like your mom. And she, continued. She had that. She kept that as a side hustle, even up to date, I think. But not so much recently. But she's elderly, so she doesn't do a lot of that. But for a long time, she held it as a side gig, and that's quite interesting. And I know in your book you mentioned, there was a very, very salient point you raised about terms of reference, and how those terms of reference are shaped by our cultures, race, life experiences, and I'm thinking just a good way. I mean, I was recalled, or I recall that because now I'm thinking, okay, so you've grown up in this way with all the life experiences and all the guidance that you received, and I'm curious about how this guidance has actually shaped your perception. Um, so the question now would be, how has your faith influenced your perspective on imagination, creativity, and this creative path generally?
Yeah. So how's my faith informed my creativity? Um, it does it in two ways. In one, it does my purpose, um, showing that what God has placed in me, the personality that He's given me, the experiences that He's allowed me to have, the environment that I grew up in, has all shaped me for my purpose. And learning now that that's not a photo onto itself, that my artistry, my creativity is not something that I could put in a corner. I realized something about a year and a half ago, that many of the people who enjoy my preaching and have enjoyed my active ecclesiastical ministry didn't know that I was an artist. And many of the people who enjoy my art have never experienced my ecclesiastical ministry. And so it is interesting to see. It shows me a perspective that all of what I do works together, that I'm not just artistic. It's not just something that I do, but God has called me down this path to be an artist. Um, and it works hand in hand with my preaching, and that's just like this book has been a tailor-made um, recipe for me, because the publisher said they don't even do stuff like this, as far as displaying someone's artwork in a book. University Press was like, this is something special, um, and so we want to be able to display that and tell that story, and so it informs it in that way, to show that all of me is worth displaying. But also, my faith crafts my perspective, because the content in which we take in this information age really is intrusive. It really combats theological principle. It combats biblical living, and so it's like with I was a youth pastor for 9 years, and my wife was my what we call our youth chair lady, so my assistant youth pastor. But I would get upset when people in the church would talk about how the children act when we send them to school for 9 hours a day. Some of them don't have Christian households at home. And then so when they come to church, we have short patience for them. as if, they should know better. But we have to be so effective in the time that they're with us that it speaks to the rest of their time away from. And so I just think we have I talk about in the book creative responsibility. Uh, to be a Christian and to be a creative person, you have a responsibility to show light in what you do. And so that's what faith does for me in my creative path. And not only that, you don't have to, everything that you do as a Christian doesn't have to point to an altar call necessarily. It doesn't have to, you don't have to put Jesus on your back on all of your clothing, right? I think about Fred Rogers. Fred Rogers, also known as Mr. Rogers, was a Lutheran minister who went to the University of Pittsburgh. And how many people have been affected by his work to be kind to one another, to not be racist, to be caring, to be loving to your neighbor. What does Jesus tell us? Love your neighbor as yourself. And this man used his platform to go into millions of homes to tell people to be kind to your neighbor. Now, that's what we have to do as Christians is to be undercover agents to show the light of Christ in whatever we do. And he took it to the mainstream. And not only that, nowadays you have a cartoon called Daniel Tiger. Well, not a cartoon, but a program. Daniel Tiger, who is the next generation of that, but in computerized form. So faith informs what I do. It informs the content and the purpose in which I operate.
And I like how you've structured the book in terms of the areas that it touches. Not just creative responsibility, which is also under one of these pillars. You talked about you touched on certain themes around collaboration, around creativity, and rest. Of course, my favorite would be rest.
Especially now.
Exactly. But I also drew a lot of wisdom or insight from the conversations around collaboration, because in a way the thrust of that theme itself touches on also humility and letting go. I know rest also speaks a little bit about letting go, but when talking about collaboration, and I think we mentioned this during a pre-conversation, humility, knowing how much you also need feedback, and also you need other people to create the work that you've been mandated to do. And you touch a little bit on collaboration as a theme in this book, and the ways by which we actually rise to the occasion as where we are needed to in creating these works through collaboration.
Yeah. Collaboration is a huge gift. It's like friendship for creative practice. It's not a one way or one sided thing. You have to give and you have to take. You have to provide insight and you have to be able to take criticism. It is really if you want to do anything great outside of yourself, you have to be able to collaborate. God shows us throughout scripture, Elohim in the scripture when God says, "Let us make man in our own image and our likeness." That's Elohim. That's an eternal being that has shared friendship, collaboration, cooperation throughout eternity until our time began. And so, if God can model that for us, why can't we partner with one another to be able to make something great? I often talk about how in movies, you have to have different people who know different disciplines to be able to carry out something,
Yeah.
a huge production. You
Project.
have to have
Yeah.
lighting people, you have to have sound people, you have to have a director, you have to have producers, you have to have a studio to back you have to have the actors. And so now that's one form of collaboration, but I also talk about communal collaboration, which is the same people, uh, people who do the same thing, who share the same practice, who support each other. And so with that, it's more so somebody walking alongside you
Yeah.
for accountability,
Yeah.
for morale. Um, for when we do that in church denominations, a lot of people who see the value in Sunday morning, which I definitely see the value in Sunday morning, don't see the value in denominations. But the thing is that the average person may not see the value in it, but at the same time, no one knows a preacher but a preacher. No one knows an artist but an artist. No one better than an artist. And so you have to have those spaces where you have somebody that walks alongside you who has been where you've been, who can lift your morale, who you can confide in, who looks into your eyes and knows exactly what you mean, that nothing is lost in translation. They know exactly what you mean, and to be able to operate and share with that person, to borrow from that person, to help to make that person better. So do you drive the most in your family?
Do I do what? Do I
Do you
drive?
do you drive the most in your family as far as cars?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I'm the chauffeur. I'm the designated chauffeur for any
So
trip.
okay, like me, I'm a soccer dad, right? So have you? So does your wife drive?
She does when she has to.
Which she has to. Now, when she drives and you're in the car, doesn't it take a lot more effort just to be in that driver's seat? Doesn't it take a lot more effort to be taken to your destination and to kick back and not want to have a break on your side?
Yes. You know it.
That's how it is in life, and
Yeah.
that's how it is in collaboration. We find ourselves being uncomfortable because someone else is in the driver's seat or
Yeah.
someone else is doing something that we
Yeah.
usually do.
Yeah.
And so it's horrible. It's now sitting in the back seat is really bad for me because it's just like I'm not used to that perspective. So, but you have to have a little faith and know that the person that is operating the vehicle either you taught them or they learn from somewhere, and they know how to get you to your
Yeah.
destination.
Yeah.
So such is creativity.
Oh boy. Thanks a lot for that analogy. Yeah, it's something heartwarming about knowing you're not the only one.
Your hands up, you're like, oh no, stop.
Yeah, yeah. Did you see that? Did you see that? Did you see that? I'm going to share this part of the podcast with my wife for later on. uh, when you the points you just made makes me think about how do you think leaders should think about creativity?
How creativity?
Yeah,
Um, you mean in the fact of what they lead, or
in the way they lead, in the way they use it as a tool, or even in the way that they encourage others as well to be creative.
for sure?
Yeah,
I think that leaders should welcome it, um, and not only something that they have to always have the epiphany, or they have to always have the idea, but welcome it amongst your constituency, welcome it amongst whoever you serve, whoever you lead, because it makes it better. It makes it better. Um, it's a bishop. His name is Bishop L.H. Ford. He's passed on now, but he would say, I'm the smartest person in this room. You know why? Because in this room, I have judges, I have lawyers, I have teachers, and so I have people who are a lot more informed and knowledgeable than me. And so when those people give their input, when those people give their ideas, when those people display creativity, then we're going somewhere. Um, and so I think we definitely shouldn't shy away from it. We shouldn't. We should always welcome people who think differently than us and are creative in different ways. And so that's how I gauge being a leader who houses creativity well within their organization. That they should get people who are not yes men. They should get people who are not um, who just don't go along to get along, but people who actually give input and insight.
How has design changed the way you understand stories or storytelling? And I think and conversely, how has storytelling or stories changed or influenced your approach to design?
Yeah, we all tell a story in our work. Um, for example, if you are FIFA, right? You every the deeper the experience, the more rewarding the experience should be. And so, if you see a FIFA commercial, you may just see an overlay over, Toyota, whoever is sponsored by them. You may see an overlay of the logo, maybe the trophy, right? And so you go to the bus stop, you see a FIFA ad. You're like, oh, this is great. It has a little more color, it has a little more branding on it, right? And so you go and get your ticket. You go to the website. You see a lot more branding. You see different colors. You see some of that same brand you saw from the bus stop. You see it there. But when you go to the actual event, I mean, your mind should blow from all the colors and the patterns you see and the branding that you see and just experiencing it that you're finally there. Every step is more rewarding. And so when it comes to graphic design, when it comes to branding, it all tells a story because it's leading you a to a summit. Is leading you to a certain space and ushering in those feelings and ushering in those elements to all meet to the most intimate place of that experience. Does that make sense?
Definitely, and I completely agree with you. It's not just about the payoff, but how also it's those little elements in the design actually help build a sense of inclusivity. Makes people feel like, okay, I'm a part of this journey, and you're taking them on that journey. Just like you said, when you finally get to the venue, and your mind is blown because it's ultimately has taken you to that point that it was intended to, and all the little um icons or the what's it called, signifiers that also help to enhance or drive those meanings. And that's a good segue to my next question, which is related to your work as a cultural influencer. I would like to say that because seeing as you're, being the host of Culture Critic podcast, you're constantly observing culture, right? What conversations about creativity do you think we're not having enough of?
I think we should certainly have a conversation around AI because uh, yes, AI will get the job done for you, but we have to, for one, you have to show your value enough to know that you're not replaceable. But also, don't be so don't enjoy the convenience so much that you shut your brain off. Um, you know, don't people are writing books with AI. People are um, you know designing with AI, and though it may get the job done, just at the end of the day, realize that it's a tool, and it's not to shut off um, your ingenuity, but use it. George Lucas said, at the rate of technology, um, there's no stopping AI when it comes to filmmaking, but you have to be able to use it. And so um, just know that the human feeling, empathy, how we gauge emotion is a commodity that's not going anywhere. Um, so there's that, but also um, I think a good conversation to have is, and I talked about it on a culture critic, that we have to be able to separate work from a person. Um, as hard as that is in this day and time, and it's harder to do in real time. But sometimes you have to look back in history and know that works of art, creative works, stand alone from the imperfections of the people who create them. And that's a hard conversation to have because we want to cancel everyone. Um, and I've been guilty of it as well. But we have to be able to know that, you know, the person that invented the iPhone, for one, the person who gets credit for inventing the iPhone is the only one who worked on the project. But in that regard, that those people are not perfect, and just because a person has lacks some redeeming qualities doesn't mean that what they contributed to our society isn't still a contribution. And that's a hard conversation to have in
Yep.
2026.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. I mean, okay. So I had, and I think I made up my mind. It's funny you actually bring that up because I made up my mind. There is a certain guest I hope to bring on where we can, have very, very polarized conversation around AI. And it's very easy too because people are very emotional about it, and they have every right to be. So I'm looking forward to that conversation. And
Yeah,
so
and
this is
it's just, to me though, I'm emotional about it as well. But there's certain things, like when it comes to policing, we should keep a human aspect of it because machines don't have, again, they don't have feelings. They don't have, if and if they go with what they've been taught in media, you know, some of us would be on the menu when you put a machine in charge of policing. So
yeah, yeah.
yeah, not a good idea. Like let's watch a few sci-fi movies and determine that that's not the right road to go down at this time.
Oh boy, in for a joke, right? Um, I must comment not just the writing of this book, but also the design. I mean, I'm going to hold it up just for everyone to see. I have only one regret reading this and going through this book, which is I wish it could be bigger. I mean, in terms of size and some kind of like a coffee table book, where we can have these beautiful designs, larger format. Not
IDP, we need a square book, okay? We need a square.
honestly. I'm telling you because just look at these beautiful designs that you made. I think my favorite was quite minimalist. I'm gonna just show it here. It's quite minimalist and not the vase. Come on, where are you? I should have bookmarked it. Okay. So the reason I say it should be bigger is just not so that I could tear out that page and put it up, frame it, but so that I could ask if you have art prints of some of these. Yes, it's funny how this is actually my favorite. I don't know what
Golden
it is.
crayon. Okay. Okay.
I don't know why. It doesn't. It's not simple. It says so much, right? That's my favorite. Um,
Thank you. Yeah,
uh,
that's I would have to say of the abstracts that's probably one of my favorites as well. I do a square version of it as well. Um, but yeah, that's digital charcoal. Um, yeah, that was where was I when I made? I think I was either it was either late night, um, but definitely on my iPad.
yeah.
But yeah, for
Do you
sure.
use Procreate? What do you use?
Procreate, yeah,
Yeah.
for those abstracts. Some of them are I do an Illustrator, but Procreate for a lot of the abstracts. Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, I think one thing that speaks to me, in that this thing is the free flow and how liberating it is. Almost, cathartic is the word, I think. How cathartic it is. You're not restricted by rules. It just flows. And when it is done, it is done. And, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's not perfect because perfection suggests that there are rules or standards that you meet up to, but rather it's done. And with that, it gives you this freedom to be, and gives the work itself freedom to be whatever it should needs to be, judged by the interpretations that we as the audience or the lookers will ascribe to it. And thank you so much for that contribution. But again, just as a pitch to you and the publishers, in case you have another edition coming out, if you can make a coffee table book version of this book, it would be really appreciated.
Hey, we will see. That's a great idea. Because I know, yeah, people would love to engage with the art in that way. But yeah, that abstract is so it is freeing. It is liberating. Just letting your hand lead, um, and the shapes that you come up with, leading people's eyes in different directions, um, and that open interpretation piece, to have people interpret the way that their experience has led them to that interpretation is a powerful tool. Um, and it's when you're able to frame it and put it on a wall, it's like it's like harnessing lightning and putting it on a frame. It's I enjoy it for sure.
And so I think a good way to kind of wrap up is, if what would you say is one habit that's helped transform your creative life?
Consistent creative practice, um, being and I go stints without creating in visual ways, but when I talk about like the 30-day challenge or just indefinitely creating something or a piece every single day, just really makes it a part of you. It really is something you look forward to. It really becomes a sanctuary and a sacred space within your week, within your day. And so being consistent in creativity has really shaped me and formed me. And equally as much, exposing myself to as much art as possible. Whether that's going to museums, whether that is picking up magazines, whether that is looking online, whether that is watching old movies. And that's my mother. It's her thing, watching old movies, black and white movies, um, and yeah, exposing yourself to the things that you want to create, but also things that are not even in your on your radar. All of it is important to be You're on mute. You're on mute, Sochi. Can you hear me? Yeah, I can't hear you for some reason. I'm not sure. Let me try to turn up my. Nope, still can't hear you. Yeah, volume is still up. Okay.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. It was me. All right. We're back. Yes, we're back. I don't know what happened. I think it was contact. Sorry. Okay. And with that, we come to our rapid fire segment. You ready?
No pressure.
That was supposed to be my line. Okay. No worries. All right. Coffee or tea? Sketchbook or notebook?
Notebook because I need to write words too.
A book you've recommended more than any other?
Didn't see it coming by Carrie Newell.
By who?
Carrie Newell.
Okay. A designer or artist who inspires you?
Tammy Coker.
So tell me more. Who's that?
He is. I think I talk. Yeah, I talk about it in the book. He was doing the art that I do when it comes to my portraits. When I bring the skin down and black and white and grayscale. Before I even knew who he was or seen his work, I presented a project in a class, and my teacher, who was an accomplished artist herself, um, was like, "Oh, this is like Tammy Coker." I said, "Who?" And he's crazy. His stuff, he has he's done work for the Oscars. He has a line with Walmart. He's AT&T. He's done some major things. I aspire to be like him.
Awesome. What's something you're currently creating that excites you?
It's a short film I'm doing on a gentleman who lives out. I live downtown Wilmington, Delaware, here in the States. And there's a gentleman, we would come and hear this music after we get off of work. And he's conducting a band, but no one's out there. And he's doing this music, but he's conducting it as if it was the finals of a competition. So engaged, and I am making a short film about what he does, and I'm so excited to do that. We got some great footage. Yeah.
Great. Can't wait to see it. Okay. Nathan, thank you for such a thoughtful conversation. I appreciate the way you've challenged us to think about creativity, leadership, but I also appreciate how you've also, helped me see the world through your book and through the work that I do as well. And I know anyone who reads it will also appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Sochi. Thank you for your passion and connecting with my work and the work that you're doing as far as putting storytellers to the forefront. So thank you.
For everyone listening, if you'd like to learn more about Nathan Nicholson and his book, in the beginning, we create. You'll find the links in the show notes. And as always, thank you for joining us on Lead with Storytelling. If you enjoyed this conversation, please share it with someone who believes that stories matter. Until next time, keep leading with storytelling.